Welcome, this is the question practical session of DBMS. So I'm going to discuss the default question of this video. Let me show you the question. So previously we have created the database for the earlier shoe center for the building software for that company. And so we have already created the database, and in this video I have to enter some data into those tables that we have already created in the previous 3 videos. So these are the data that we have to enter in this video by insert queries. So let me begin the process. So first I am going to enter this data to this ID SQL software, and for the first one I have to enter data into this user type. So queries, I'm going to type the queries, insert into. So I have to enter the table user type. Simply to user types, I have to specify the column name. So user type ID is an auto increment table, auto increment column. So I have just enter user type name. User type name, and values. I have to enter three values. Sorry, employee, and I have to repeat this query twice with the customer and the supplier. So first, it is better to check this query whether it is working or not. If there's some errors, you have to fix them. So I'm going to execute it. So the query has executed successfully, and if we check the user type table, you can see employees are added into this table. So then we can enter the rest of this data into this table, like customer. So I'm going to execute those 2 queries as well. So we added the data, refresh, you can see customer and the supplier, they also added. And that is it for the user type. And the city table, there are 5 data that I have entered to this one. So I'm going to type the query, insert into the table name is city table. I have to specify the column. Then in the table, so city ID is auto increment column. I have to enter the city name, city name, values. I have to first enter the Congo. Let's check this query whether it is working. I executed. There are no any errors with this query. When we check the city table, you can see they already added the data, and I'm going to add other 2 data. So I'm going to execute those queries as well. So all the queries are okay. Then when we check the table, you can see all the data is added into this table, and that is it for the city table. Then the gender table. So we have to enter 2 details only in here. Gender, first one is male, second one is female. So when I execute these 2 queries, all the queries added into this gender table, you can see the data, male, female is added into this table. Then you have to enter the data into user table. That is a big one. So user, there are several columns in here, so we have to add all the columns. I'm going to enter the first one, insert into user. I have to use the represent user, and I have to specify the columns. Use ID I don't need to specify, it is auto increment one. So first name, and last name, first name, last name, and the contact number. Then status, then status of the status, user type ID, and the address ID, then gender ID. So those are the values So those are the table column names that I have to enter the data, and I'm going to insert the values for them. For the first user, I'm going to enter Tilan, and then a code. Mobile number, status is 1, and user type ID also 1, address ID 1, and gender ID also 1. So these are the data that I have to enter in this first user. Next execute error. There's no data in those tables, address and the user address table. So I have to first fill the address table. So I'm going to use this query data. I'm going to add a new query and add the data for the address table. So insert into address. I have to specify the columns, number, then the street, underscore 1, underscore 2, and the city ID. Then I have to enter the values. So this is the query for the address table. So when execute, should be added to the address table. It is added into the address table. When you check the data in the address table, it is added successfully. So I have to add the rest of this data into this table. So I have written the other queries, and I'm going to execute these queries. So when I execute, they are also added into the address table, successfully added in the address table. So then we can move on to the user section. So when I execute this one, it should be added now. Okay, that data was added into this database. Let me show you the data. So this is the first user. So let me type the other queries of the script. So I have entered the queries. I'm going to execute those queries. So all the queries are executed without an error. So when we check the details, all the data is added into this table for the 7 rows. And for the last one, system login table, I have to enter the details for the system login table. So I'm going to enter those tables. So this is the first query. There's only 2 rows in this one. I'm going to execute and check the query whether if it is working without an error and edit the data. I'm going to enter the second details. I'm going to execute this, and it was added. So successfully added the data into this user system login table. And that is it for this video as well. And thank you for watching.